Let's move across our border now, and rights groups and opposition parties in Zimbabwe are sounding the alarm over constitutional amendments that they believe will compromise the independence of the judiciary. The amendments, which have already been approved by parliamentarians and will soon be signed into law by President Emmerson Mnangagwa, will allow him to handpick top judges without consulting lawmakers. I'm joined now by Blessing Ivan Vava, Executive Director of the Crisis in Zimbabwe Coalition. Thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you in studio. It's quite far-reaching, these constitutional changes. Could you just sum up for us what powers they actually are going to give to the President?
Thank you, Sally, for inviting me to the studio. I think that first and foremost, Zimbabweans voted for a constitution that is in 2013. And before that constitution has been fully implemented, we are seeing ZANU-PF trying to amend the constitution and to create an all-powerful president, an imperial president, of which this is something that Zimbabweans have been grappling with from the imperial president that was created, the executive president that was created in 1987, and also the rejection of the 2000 constitutional draft that was done by the Constitutional Commission that also had too much power to the president. And during the outreach in the writing of that constitution, people rejected an executive president. But more importantly, what we should understand is that ZANU-PF has no appetite to implement the constitution. This is a constitution that came in 2013, and before its full implementation and before we even aligned the laws with that constitution, they are changing that constitution. So our call is to say, before we talk of amendments, why don't we implement that constitution?
So my understanding is that the amendments have already been passed. Now, is it the same as we have in South Africa? To change the constitution, you need a 2/3 approval in Parliament. Is that right?
Well, in our system, I think that the problem also started with the process of writing that constitution, because the moment that we allowed politicians to lead the process, already the contents of that constitution was compromised. That's why ZANU-PF willy-nilly, they're changing that constitution. But also to understand that Zimbabwe is gearing for a one-party state. ZANU-PF has decimated, literally used the courts to decimate the opposition so that they also get 2/3 required to amend that constitution.
Won't you break it down for me? What powers exactly is the President going to get? These amendments have been passed. They just need to be signed into law, I understand. It will give him the power to appoint top judges without consulting lawmakers. What else does he gain from these changes?
Of course, we know that they have removed the clause of the running mate. But more importantly, the appointment of the judges they were supposed to go through a public interview process and also a parliamentary process, but that has been removed. But it's all in an attempt to be in charge of the judiciary. It's not just about the judges, like the individual. Yeah. Like, for instance, there's an issue of Luke Malava, for instance.
Before we go there, I just want to pick up on what you said about the fact that the President is now going to have the power to appoint those judges himself. ZANU-PF, in response, is saying there's international precedent for this. Just look to the USA. The President appoints judges to the Supreme Court. Is it the same thing as what happens in the USA?
Look, we are not Americans. We are
no, but still, they're saying there's precedent. It happens. It doesn't mean it's anti-democratic.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that there was a public consultation that happened last year, and the people of Zimbabwe asked what they wanted, and they rejected a president to appoint judges without consultation. So we cannot say that America is the best practices. We should have our own practices as Zimbabweans, and we should also listen to what the people of Zimbabwe are saying.
So what is going on here? Why is this happening now?
Well, it's happening because because of the coup that happened in November 2017. That's the problem that we have in Zimbabwe, that Emmerson Mnangagwa is coup-proofing and is consolidating his power to be an imperial president, and ZANU-PF is gearing for a one-party state. We've seen what they've done, using the courts to decimate the opposition, the shrinking of democratic space, the arrest of opposition parties,
and lawyers,
and the arrest of students, for wearing t-shirt like the t-shirt that I'm wearing now. There were students who were arrested. It's an outlawed t-shirt in Zimbabwe.
I have to, we're running out of time, but I know that you've been trying to speak to former liberation movements in SADC countries. I want to know who you've met. Have you had support for your campaign? And whether you've had a response from the ANC?
Well, the program is going on well. We started with the Frelimo in Mozambique, and we also engaged SWAPO in Namibia, and we're also
what
going
are they saying
to
to you? Because we know that often there's very little response. So are they going to assist you? Are they going to do anything?
Of course, they cannot afford to ignore what is happening in Zimbabwe, because Zimbabwe is not in isolation. Look at the humanitarian crisis that has been caused also by Zimbabweans that are leaving the country, going to South Africa, going to Namibia, and all these countries are also struggling in handling their own people, and yet now there are Zimbabweans who are now competing, for economic opportunities with the locals. So the response has been good. Of course, they can't say it in public. Some of them, they said, we don't want to publicize that we've met you, and they're very much concerned about what is happening in our country. And besides, the fact that we've embarked on this route is premised on the historical processes that happened, during our liberation struggle. The frontline states, there were President Nyerere, President Kaunda, and all the other countries that had been liberated. They made sure that President Samora Machel, they made sure that Zimbabwe has to have freedom, because the freedom of Mozambique is not enough when its neighbors are still under colonialism. So what we are saying is that to this liberation movement, yes, they have their own problems in their countries. South Africa has its own problems, Namibia has its own problems, but Zimbabwe has been a problem child for SADC, a country that used to be the beacon of the continent, and the precedent that was set, the coup of November 2017, is haunting our country. There is no democracy in Zimbabwe.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming through to chat to us. When do you expect the president to sign this into law fully?
Well, I'm not sure as yet, but things are happening under the cover of darkness. So anytime you can just say that it's been signed, without any due processes being followed.
Oh, well, thank you very much for apprising us of what is happening in Zimbabwe at this time. Thank you so much. That was Blessing Ivan Vava, Executive Director of the Crisis in Zimbabwe Coalition.